PM just saying that he's going to fight the next election, does he have your wholehearted support?
He certainly does.
Okay.
If you look at what he's been focused on, making sure that the global fight against inflation and the economic recovery is in place, an energy strategy, safer streets, and, of course, dealing with war in Europe. On all these issues, the Prime Minister has been leading at home and leading internationally. And this trip to India, we're announcing about £1 billion of, I think, deals already done in place, 11,000 jobs, a trade deal with the largest democracy in the world, slated to be the third largest economy by 2050. This is what I think your viewers will want their leader to be doing, and that's exactly what he is doing.
We'll come on to India, if we may, but Partygate is still the albatross around the Prime Minister's neck. Why doesn't he just put himself forward for an investigation by the Privileges Committee himself and have done?
Well, I think in many ways, if you just step back a second and think about, how we do things in this country, and actually an exemplar to the rest of the world, due process is important. And what we are tabling today is an amendment to say, actually, the right chronology is that the police complete their investigation, the Cabinet Office report, the Sue Gray report, is published, and then Parliament can decide to refer this to the Privileges Committee. That is the right way of doing this if you follow due process. If you, just want to play politics with this, as Keir Starmer was sort of found out yesterday, because he, probably inadvertently misled Parliament because he got overexcited and started accusing the Prime Minister.
Are you suggesting that the Leader of the Opposition has misled Parliament?
Well, David Evnett has actually put a letter into the Speaker of Parliament.
And you agree with that?
Well, because he accused the Prime Minister of something that he clearly had no evidence of. He accused the Prime Minister of attacking the BBC for their coverage in Ukraine. The Prime Minister did not do that, and by accusing him at the dispatch box, mistakenly, he should come and apologise and withdraw.
It's a bit pot kettle black, that, isn't it?
What's that?
That's a bit pot kettle black.
No, all I'm saying to you is, if you want to play politics with this, then, the shenanigans that Labour are attempting today is the route. If you want to follow due process, then you allow the police to complete their investigation, you allow the Sue Gray report to be published, and then the Privileges Committee can look at that. That is what I'll be voting for today. The amendment is the right chronology and the right way to follow due process.
Or you could just be the Prime Minister and say, you know what? I'll just refer myself to the Privileges Committee, and then all of this nonsense that we're debating and taking up all my valuable time, I'll just put it in train.
No, there is a police investigation.
Yeah,
there is
and it's already
Cabinet Office
on some
report,
50 fines.
And there is a Cabinet Office report to be published.
Which is already reported in some scale.
Well, but we haven't seen the full report.
We've seen the abridged version.
Right, we haven't seen the full report.
And we've seen at least 50 fines.
And all I'm saying to you is due process is the right thing to follow. I think you'll find most of my colleagues who are fair-minded, who believe in due process, will vote for the amendment because it's the right thing to do. This is not the Prime Minister sort of saying, he's the Prime Minister who said, look, I'll come to Parliament and I will make a full statement. He's come to Parliament after receiving the fixed penalty notice, given a wholehearted apology, explained himself.
But then was a pantomime dame, we're told, in the 1922 committee just a few moments afterwards.
I think from those people who were present at the meeting, the detailed questioning. And Roger Gale is a friend, and I believe he was there for 3 minutes, as he quite rightly made clear with your interview. But those who were there for the full meeting say actually the Prime Minister dealt with the substance of the issue and talked about the economic recovery. We've got a global fight against inflation. People watching this today are worrying about the energy bills.
Of course they absolutely are. And the party instead is being damaged because of Partygate. Up until, even before the Prime Minister was fined, 810 local council seats likely to be lost in the local elections because people don't trust the Prime Minister. That's 40% of all the seats that you were putting candidates up for. Clearly, this is something you can't move on from until the Prime Minister grasps it by the horns. Well,
the 5th of May is the poll that we should quote. I was with activists in Wandsworth a few weeks ago, and on the doorstep, what people are talking about is the low council tax being delivered in Wandsworth compared to Lambeth and Merton and other boroughs that are Labour-led.
I'm not going to let you take me down that route because you're going to get me in an awful lot of trouble when it comes to the local elections.
All I'm really saying to you, Kate, is that ultimately, people make a choice for who they want to lead in their local area,
Yeah,
local government, based on delivery of services and value for money.
But Partygate clearly does matter. You're a polling man, so let me quote you some polls. In fact, YouGov, that you once were joint owner of, that's found that by 2 to 1, the public wants him to resign. That was just after the Partygate fine was issued.
Well, as I said, look, there will be polls on Partygate, there'll be polls on the global fight against inflation. The real poll that matters is the 5th of May. And actually, on the doorstep, people want to see delivery of services at value for money. And that's what Conservatives are delivering in local government. And if you care about your council tax and make sure that your weekly bin collection, all the other things being delivered for you, then you vote Conservative as well.
Well, I have got some more polls for you. Another YouGov poll talking about how well the government is or isn't doing. I think we can put it up on the screen there. 72% think that government are doing badly on immigration, 70% badly on taxation, 68% badly on the NHS. That was a YouGov poll.
So, look, on immigration, I think part of the problem has been 3 years ago we were only getting about 300 people crossing that treacherous, illegal crossing through the Channel. That's up to 28,000. So that's something that we're dealing with this historic deal with Rwanda, which I think is the right thing to do, remembering that these people...
Really?
I do. I tell you for why.
Why? Because just to remind our viewers of your background, you came here as a young man. You couldn't speak English. You were an immigrant.
Yes.
If you did that today, you would be taken to Rwanda. And even if you passed all the tests, you'd have to stay there. You wouldn't be able to come here.
Yes, but it's tiny detail, which is really important. My parents fled a dictator from Iraq, landed in the first safe country, which is Britain, and made their life here. But hold on a second. But we came through a legal route and applied for immigration status and got that. These people who are being exploited by criminals are coming from a safe country called France. They are already in a safe country. They're choosing to be putting their lives at risk and being exploited by criminals.
But we have such a bad relationship with France now. We won't pay them.
Well,
we still owe them £52 million that we've promised to give to them in order to try to help with refugees, and we haven't given it to them.
We are grateful to the gendarmes and the intelligence sharing, and that intelligence sharing has been responsible for a number of illegal crossings being thwarted. But it's worth reminding viewers that actually those illegal crossings also mean capacity's been taken away from people who may not be able to make those illegal crossings, who are legitimate asylum seekers that we need to look after. And we've got a great track record in doing that. In that, since 2015, I think we've welcomed 185,000 people to this country from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Hong Kong, and now from Ukraine. As you know, we've got a dedicated team in the Department of Education where we're looking to place children from Ukraine in the first tranche. About 100,000 children is our plan.
The scheme's not working very well, though, is it?
Well, I'm very...
Even Robert Jenrick, the former housing minister, has said that it was very challenging. He's now taken in some refugees.
It was challenging, and
it continues to be so.
And we get better. So, one of the things we learned very quickly is having to go to a processing centre and get your visa physically was not necessary. You can do it online. The numbers are coming up. We're almost touching 60,000 people now. And, of course, in education...
We're a tech-savvy... first world country.
Sure.
It should have been much easier than this.
Look, we had to stand this up rapidly. The Home Office stood up the processing centres, I think, within a week and started processing the first visa applications. And people that evening started getting their visas through. We have a very proud track record of certainly in my department, of making sure every Afghan child is in school, in education. We'll do the same for the Ukrainian children. We've done the same for Hong Kongers. I think that's important. But this Rwanda deal is really important because we've got to break the business model of these criminals. We can't.
But Israel had a deal with them, didn't they? And it just didn't work.
Well, it's a very different. It was not like our deal. People compare us to the Australia deal and Israel. This is very different, and I think it's the right thing to do. I absolutely believe that we have to make sure we send a very clear message to people that it won't pay
Don't come
to
here.
come across illegally. No, come here legally. Right, back to my own story.
Okay.
Right, we fled Iraq from Saddam Hussein, came straight here to a safe country. These people are coming from
because you flew
France.
here, Minister. That's what I'm saying. You were privileged enough to be able to fly here. These people have to get on dinghies that sink in the channel.
But they're in France. They're in a safe country. They don't need to get on.
We're going round in circles on that one. I need to ask you about India before we run out of time. Are you the Prime Minister there this morning, of course, are you completely comfortable doing a deal with a country that refuses to condemn Russia at the UN and the behaviour of Putin?
Well, India is the world's largest democracy. They are neutral on this. They know what our position is. The Prime Minister's taking a leadership position in making sure we defend the rights of the Ukrainian people. They have been illegally attacked, invaded. War crimes are being committed in the Ukraine. The Indian government is very aware of our position.
And yet India still won't condemn them.
Well, India's chosen a path of neutrality. I'm sure the Prime Minister will make very clear what our position is.
Worse than that, they're still buying Russian oil in rupees at huge discounts, and they obviously have weapons deals with Russian-made weaponry, and it's undermining the sanctions that most of the Western world is trying to implement.
You mentioned weapons. So around 65% of the Indian military hardware is Russian. We want to change that. We want to see India be looking at buying Western defence weapons and other weaponry. That's part of the trade deal.
I also mentioned talking about oil and it being discounted. And that is, in part, one of the reasons why our energy bills are increasing here in the United Kingdom. But we think it's the right thing to do, and yet India is not doing that.
Well, as I say, look, India is the world's largest democracy. They've taken a neutral position. We have taken a very different position. I am certain the Prime Minister
Is it neutral if they're buying oil at a discount?
Will be. They have in terms of the votes of the UN and the position they've taken overall. I think our position is clear on the illegality of the invasion of the Ukraine by Putin.
But they're propping up the Putin regime by doing this.
Well, and this is something that the Prime Minister will be discussing with his count. Of course, they will. Our position is very clear. But this trip is about trade. This trip is about building that deep trade relationship with a country that will be the third largest economy in the world by 2050.
It's also about doing a deal with a country that's supporting the Putin regime, that is hammering people day and night in Ukraine illegally.
Well, I think that's a misrepresentation of India's position in terms of, they've chosen a path at the moment of neutrality. And I think we will make our position very clear. I'm sure the Prime Minister will talk about, why we have led, I hope, with our US and European colleagues on supporting the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people are putting up a really good fight. They're fighting like lions in the Donbass. This battle for the Donbass is going to be crucial to, I hope, reminding President Putin of the errors of judgment that he's made.
There's much still to do as far as your department is concerned as well. Are you going to get more of your civil servants back to work?
We are. We have been very clear that I want to see departments going back to levels of office occupancy that are pre-pandemic, so pre-pandemic working. Now, in saying that, I also want my teams out visiting nurseries, early years, schools, colleges and universities. And I think that's the right thing to do. But my absolute commitment is to make sure that people come back. I tell you, there's another good reason, is that the most junior staff can only really progress if we are together, whether it be in sanctuary buildings in London or in our great hub in Sheffield. We've doubled the number of people in Sheffield. We're up to 1,500 people now in Sheffield and other hubs in Darlington and elsewhere. So we want people back to pre-pandemic levels of office occupancy.
How soon?
What's that?
How quickly?
Oh, as soon as we're on it now. People are, and I have to say, we've delivered on skills. The skills bill is with the
You're going to get me in trouble. We're overrunning. You're going to get me in trouble.
Right. The skills bill we've delivered on, schools white paper, to make sure every child is entitled to a great school wherever they live in the country, and of course family hubs in half of England's local authorities.
Okay.
And I can't end this interview without wishing Her Majesty the Queen a happy birthday.
Absolutely right. Thank you. Oh, the TL thing, is that because everybody thought it was Tory leader?
No, it's T levels, and I would have put on, but I've had too many badges. I thought it's important to actually have this.
You would have looked like one of those mods or
United
rockers or something.
Kingdom, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's good to see you as always. Thank you very much indeed.